continue with part two of the strange happenings by Jenny Marima, the telenovela Strange Happenings. So part two, which will begin from chapter 8 to chapter 15. So I'll start, um, which the title was Back to Square One. When I opened my eyes, when I opened my eyes next, I felt like I was back in hospital. There was a large window on my left. An old landline telephone sat on a sideboard next to the bed. There was a strong scent of surgical spirit. The air felt sterile and still. The ceiling reminded me of the many ceilings I had stared at for weeks during my treatment in different facilities. You are awake, a voice said. It was Chow. She was back, still in her school uniform, pacing around the room. My last memory of her was of floating somewhere on a boat, both of us covered in sand and seaweed. Where am I? I scrambled to sit up. The school dispensary, she said. You've been sleeping since yesterday. What day is it? I said. It's the next day, Chow said. We both giggled. I guess you got the water therapy after all, Chow teased. I shook my head furiously. Whatever happened yesterday was not the light and relaxing therapy Dr. Chow claimed it would be. I shook back. I shook back. A nurse came in shortly. Just the sight of her brought us sadness. I was so tired of doctors, nurses, and hospitals. Do not get me wrong. I appreciated all the help I got from them, but I had really had enough. Now, before testing freedom properly, I was back in dreaded hospital. You are up, she said and smiled. She flipped open a clipboard with my details. We've been monitoring your condition since yesterday, she began. I had my breath and waited for the worst. I braced myself because I knew she was about to deliver some terrible news. She flipped shut the clipboard and said, your vitals are okay. Your body experienced some shock and stress from the incident. You also lost a lot of water from your body. You may need some pain management medicine for the leg, but everything is fine. With this report, I felt my heart rate go down and my body immediately relaxed. She smiled at Chow. How is your arm? A little sore, but not bad. The ointment I got yesterday had brought a lot of relief. Chow's her arm was grazed slightly when she wave tossed her into the wave tossed her into the water. That's great, the nurse said. She then turned to me. How do you feel? A little dizzy, I said. A little sore, but not bad. The nurse then pointed at the shelves. Your belongings are here. You are free to go as soon as you feel ready. That is when I realized I was in a hospital gown. Chow stopped the nurse as she made her way to the door. I have a question, madam, she started. The nurse looked attentive. Go ahead, she said. Do you have a man named Hamisi working here? Shaw was direct. At once, flash of the previous day came flooding back. Hamisi was a man I wanted to discard from my memory. My weird obsession with him had ended as soon as he wanted to steal my watch and sell it on the black market for 12,000 Kenya shillings. In that moment, I also felt a little embarrassed by Chow's forwardness. I did not think it was appropriate to ask a school nurse we just met about her colleagues. Hamisi, the nurse pounded for a minute. My heart pounded. If Hamisi did not exist, then I was crazy. Oh yes, she said as if she remembered. Yes, of course, we had a Hamisi. And I shifted uncomfortably. Had? Chow asked. Did he leave? My heart skipped a beat. I was waiting for the inevitable. Hamisi must have been fired. He was on the premises illegally. He was probably not authorized to be in the school compound. They had a term for character like that. I had seen that term used in a book I had read. Hamisi must have been a person non grata, a persona non grata. He was no longer welcome in the school. Hamisi left the school, the nurse said. He retired 3 years ago. We even threw him a party. Let me show you the photos. Retired? The Hamisi I knew was barely 40. Did she mean he had resigned? And if he had, what was he doing escorting me to the dormitory and classroom? There seemed to be no end to the mystery of Hamisi. The nurse opened the Facebook app on her photo on her phone. She searched in her gallery and pulled up Hamisi's farewell photo from the album. There he is. She pointed to a heavy-set man with a shock of grayish-white hair. The man was possibly in his late 60s. It felt like my heart had dropped into my stomach. Why do you ask? The nurse asked good naturedly. It's a long story, Chow said. I could tell Chow wanted to consult with me before spilling out the details of my mysterious Hamisi. Okay, all the best then, the nurse said and left. So, Chow's eyes glared widely. Was that your Hamisi? She said, even though she already knew the answer. You are right all along, I said to Chow. Then the man in the photo is not Hamisi. We let out a collective sigh. We were back to square one. Then chapter 9, the conspiracy. We found Miss we found Miss Kanene sitting in the waiting area by the dispensary. When we got there, we got out. The teacher smiled at us sheepishly, sheepishly as she ushers us to our seats. I thought it was the squishy sound from my still wet shoes that made her look at us like that. I honestly expected Shao and I to be in big trouble after disappearing for hours from the group and then nearly being swept away by high tide. So far, no one had said anything, not me at least. Maybe they were waiting for me to recover properly before meting out the punishment. Another voice in my head told me that maybe she was the one in trouble because she did not take proper care of us. She did not even give us proper instruction. But then again, I had joined the school late. Maybe she had done it the weeks before I had arrived, and everyone knew what was to be expected. There was no use speculating. The moment of truth had arrived. She called us to sit beside her on the bench. Her smile was difficult to interpret. Was it one of those smiles that was soft and warm, but the word that would follow would be as tough as nails? And all this would become clear in a few minutes. So I just found out you two are brothers and sisters. Brother and sister, she said cheerily. You are the elder one, right? She pointed at me. Of all the things I expected her to say, this was not one of them. To be fair, it was not the worst thing to be told. That said, I would rather people did not know Chow and I were siblings. Or that I was 14 and she was 12 and a half. Or that I was repeating a grade. This will be re-traumatizing to my already fragile self. How do you feel? She seemed to forget her early question. A little sore, but okay. I said, hoping we will not revisit the siblings thing. She drew in a deep breath, looked around as if to make sure no one was listening, and then said, now, if it is okay with you, I would rather we keep what happened at the beach to ourselves. Our eyes widened in a bewilderment. Why was Ma- Miss Kanene making a secret arrangement with us? I knew deep down this was very wrong. I am sure Chow knew it too. A teacher should never ask a student to keep a secret about anything. I knew at once that I should report it, although I was shocked I couldn't to listen to her. You know, she explained, there have been strange things happening with the school signboard. It keeps disappearing and no one knows how or why. They are managing the story, but we don't want to add to the bad publicity. It all made sense now. She was the one in trouble, not us. She was busy splashing and playing in the waves. She did not keep an eye on us. I wondered how she was planning to deal with the witnesses. The class must have known I was missing. Maybe that was why she carefully whispered whiskered them back to school. She must have made up a story about our disappearance. I could not believe my luck. If justice was to be served, I deserved to be punished for chasing after a stranger. I felt like I was getting away with murder. I took a deep breath. The witnesses and how how she planned to manage the story were her problem now. I had enough on my plate. I was now fully convinced that the man passing himself off as Hamisi was the signboard thief. He had given me the clues that he was the one. By inner eye, by inner eyes, he must have meant, look right in front of you. The truth was hidden in plain sight. He was saying, look at me. I am the fellow bringing I am the fella bringing down the signboard and making everyone feel like they have gone insane. So, have you agreed? The teacher asked, stretching her hands to seal the deal with a handshake. Xiao shrugged. I hesitated. Deep down, I knew agreeing would be wrong. It bothered me very much. If a friend came to me with a situation like this and asked me for advice, I would tell them not to agree. Nonetheless, I found myself agreeing because I had my own selfish request. To this day, I regret the words that came out of my mouth. I deeply regret saying what I did. I feel terrible every time I remember what I chose to do. If there was something I would apologize, I would. If the situation were to happen again, I know the right thing to do. Unfortunately, at this point, I did not do the right thing. I have a request, I blurted. I do not know where the courage came from. I suppose being around Chow. Some of her confidence were beginning to rub off on me. I want to request that you don't tell the class that Chow and I are related. I said bravely. I would rather people didn't know. Miss Kanene pumped my hand with her small one in a firm handshake. It's a deal, she said, and added, see you in class. I smiled victoriously, but when I turned to Chow, she seemed disappointed. What you did was wrong, she said. Are you kidding me? I asked. We just made a deal. How is this different from you asking the nurse for Hamissy's information? It's completely different. Hamissy was stealing from you. We both wanted to get to the bottom of this. I shook my head. When is it your turn? When it's your turn to ask a question, I supported you. But when it's mine, then I'm wrong. Hmm? She shrugged. Fine, let's just go. It's not fine. I stopped her. And you relieve that people won't find out our secret? Charles shrugged. It doesn't bother me. To be honest, you are the one who is so so flattered about people finding out. I felt a deep sense of betrayal. I had started to consider Chow as teammate. I was realizing that we actually not in one accord. It's very convenient for you to say that you are not the one in the same class with your younger sister. Chow threw up her hands helplessly. I honestly don't understand what the big deal is. So what if they know I had an injury? You had no control over the situation. It's not like you failed your test or something. She breathed hard and added, and even if you had failed some tests, so what? They will talk and then keep quiet. You have no idea where the shoes pinched because you haven't walked a mile in my shoes, I said. You are right, I haven't, she said. So, are we going to keep arguing or I'm going to escort you to your dormitory? I don't need your escort. I don't need to escort me, I spat. Fine, she spat back and shot her way into a different direction. I limped my way slowly back to the dormitory. My squishy foot interrupted the soft tumbling of my heart. I felt so heavy. Chow was right. Unfortunately, at the time, I was stubborn. I insisted on doing the wrong thing. I justified my wrong action and made it look like she was refusing to understand me. It pained me to remember I know better now. I'll choose better now. I had spent my life avoiding my sister. Our interactions were so minimal we did not have opportunity to argue. This was the first time we exchanged words. I was crushed. It was especially crushing because I had started to consider her an ally in unveiling the mysterious happening. Sadly, our short-lived alliance was over. We were back to the nothing that we were before. At the thought of this, my heart broke into a thousand little pieces. Chapter 10. The Suspects. Chow and I did not speak after our little tiff. As I walked to the class, I decided for the first time in my life, I would be the bigger person. I would take the high road. Our experience in the past couples of days made me realize that I actually liked her. I did not like that. She spoke her mind, but in a strange way, I admired her for it. I planned to say sorry and ask her if she would support me on the Hamisi story. I planned to report the whole saga to the teacher. When I got to class, I told myself I would not be petty or defensive regardless of how Chao responded to me. If she was moody or did not want to talk to me, then I would wait patiently until she was ready to speak. She was already settled when I leaped my way in. Hey you, she said merrily. She was back to her cheerful self. I felt a wave of gratitude. I did not need to apologize. It seemed everything was okay. I want to report Hamisi, or whoever that man is, to the teacher, I told her. It's the right thing to do. She supported me with enthusiasm. Tell me again about your first meeting, she paused. I cast my glance to the side as I tried to remember. I was waiting outside the administration block. I was told to wait by Miss Kanene. She said someone would come for me. I said, Chow looked attentive. Did she tell you the name of the person? No, I said. I explained to Chow that when Hamisi showed up, I assumed he was the one because he did. Because he did. In fact, take me to the dormitory, open it with keys, and then escort me to class. At what point did he introduce himself? She said. I don't think he did. I said. How did you know his name was Hamisi? She asked. I was annoyed. It was printed on his overall. That's fine. It's okay. Cha was extra sensitive. Everything is fine. You have done nothing wrong. Her words made me relax, although seemed a little too tender. It felt like I was with our mother. We saw Mr. Gogo make his way to our classroom for a mathematics lesson. Chow took advantage of the small time window to update me on some news. So they put up CCTV camera to catch the signboard thief, she said. Because the security people keep falling asleep at the extra hours the signboard is removed. It must be the security people then, I said forcefully, although I really wanted it to be Hamisi. I wanted him to be found, arrested, and charged with all the crimes he had committed. Maybe Shaw agreed politely with me, but despite changing the security guys, the signboards keeps coming down. I found myself smiling at Shaw. Being a class secretary gave her access to information not readily available in the students' world. Maybe that is why she campaigned so hard for the position. Maybe she was smarter than I gave her credit for. Information is power. Chow had access to information. Chow had power. She was about to tell me what they had seen on the CCTV footage when Mr. Bobo came in. Before he said anything, my hands was already in the air. I'd like to speak to you after class, I said. This was the first time in my life that I had raised my hands on my own accord to say something in class. Of course, Mwawasi, he said, you and I can have a chat after the double lesson, but if it is extremely urgent, we can step outside now. I thought about it. It was not extremely urgent. Hamisi did not look like he would run away. I knew his hiding place in the hotel rooms. No, it was not urgent. I told the teacher as much. Cheo gave me an enthusiastic thumb up sign. She scribbled something on a used piece of paper and slid it to me. The note said, you are doing the right thing. I'm so proud of you. I was starting to find her encouragement a little too much. I liked that she was supporting me, but something about it felt forced. When I turned over the paper to the used part, I gasped. It was our mother's handwriting. Then chapter 11, the betrayal. Mr. Ogo started the double lesson in earnest. I slid the piece of paper with mother's handwriting in my pocket. I planned to read it as soon as I was done reporting Hamisi, or whoever that person was, to the teacher. I was ready to give evidence even to the police. If I was needed to testify in court, I would happily do it. I thought about mother's handwriting on the back of the note. Did I accidentally bring one of her letters? What was Chow doing with it? Was it a letter to her? I will get to the bottom of it later. But first, I had to bring Hamisi to book. The double lesson dragged on. I almost wished I had told the teacher it was urgent. Carrying information like this was burdensome. I could not wait to do my part and report it. Meanwhile, Chow seemed restless, like she was looking for something. She opened her desk a couple of times and rearranged everything. It was disturbing my peace. I felt like we were on the school bus again on the way to the beach. I remember how her unpacking and repacking distracted me. Occasionally, she would glance at me sheepishly. It was the exact same look Miss Kanene had before she made the deal with us. It was the look of guilt, and then it hit me that if I was to report her missing, I would have to talk about what happened at the bridge, meaning I would be forced to go against the deal I had with Miss Kanene. Charles' fidgeting was making me uncomfortable. Her extra wide smiles, like the one you will give to a 3 years old, was starting to look suspicious. So many strange happenings in such a short time. I was torn between Miss Kanene and Hamisi. It was supposed to be an easy decision, but I, I struggled with it. Of course, reporting Hamisi would be the right thing to do. If it made Miss Kanene look irresponsible, then it was not my problem. I felt the weight of it all hanging over me. Time dragged, then the bell finally rang. It felt like I had waited a year. Mr. Gogo ushered me to join him. I tapped Shao to follow me for moral support. Let me just wait here, she said. I thought you would want to join me. I asked in bafflement. No, you go ahead. I know you'll do a good job. I felt my annoyance rising. Why was she talking to me like I was a child? I know you will do a good job. I know you'll do a good job. This was not a kindergarten Christmas play. I was about to report a criminal. I assumed since she had been part of the process, she would at least want to stand by me as I explained. I pulled my crutches under my arm and made my way to the door. Mr. Gogo was already there. A couple of other students also wanted to speak to him. I glanced back quickly to look at Chow. I was astonished to see her with her head deep in my desk, frantically rummaging through. I was torn between going back to the desk to demand an explanation for her behavior and going forward to Mr. Gogo to report. Forward is always better. I resolved as I hopped to the door. Mr. Gogo was still attending to other last minute query outside class. He wiped his balding head with a face towel every so often. Finally, when it was my turn, he looked at me apologetically. Sorry, I was to see you first, but your friends were very swift, he said sharply. Anyway, what's on your mind, son? I took a deep breath. It was it was do or die. There's something very strange happening, I began. Mr. Gogo nodded in agreement. So true, he chimed. So many mysterious happenings. Like now, there's a strange flu being reported in China that's killing people like flies. As we speak, China is under lockdown. There are no reports cases in Kenya, but the station in the air. It feels like the end of the world. His words took me back. Mysteriously happening involves only one man and a possible missing signboard. What was all this about a deadly flu and countries going into lockdown? What was in your head, son? He said. What's the name of this flu? I asked. They are calling it the coronavirus disease. Apparently, you can get it just from breathing air within a few feet from an infected person. Even surfaces can be contaminated. You can easily introduce the virus to the nose and mouth with your hands. Are you safe here? I felt panic rising. Kenya is fine so far. There have been no reported cases, but Italy, Spain, parts of Europe, and the United States are in a bad way. My head was scrambled. What was it you wanted to tell me, son? He asked. It is such a busy day, and I am also on early morning patrol duty. I am so finished. I wondered when he would stop talking so I could tell him about her missing. I cleared my throat. I saw Miss Kanene make her way to our class. What was it, son? He asked again. May I tell you later? I asked sheepishly. Very well, he said. I felt Miss Kanene's firm grip on my shoulder as I made to wobble, to wobble back to class. She was just slightly taller than me and also very pretty. But right this minute, there was a look of betrayal in her eyes. I hope I hope he will do the right thing, she said. It sounded like a threat. Chapter 12. The letter. After Miss Kanane threats, I just wanted to sit down quietly in class. What she was doing was wrong. I quietly planned to report it to the class teacher. Before I settled in my seat properly, Chow asked me for something I could not quite hear. I was burning to tell her about the disease I had just been told by about, but she kept interrupting me. Please give me back the piece of paper. I wrote you a note on. I wrote a note on. She said, "What piece of paper?" I asked. I knew exactly what piece of paper she was talking about. It was the piece of paper that had mother's handwriting on it. It was the piece of paper that was making her so restless. For whatever reason, she really did not want me to see its content. It must have had something to do with me. I felt so alone. Did you throw it away? Where is it? Sal persisted. What is so important about it? I wanted to know. So you have it? She spat. Maybe. So what? It's my letter, meant for my eyes only, Shaw said bitterly. My head was spinning. Coming to this school was clearly a mistake. Maybe the deadly flu had already reached the end. That, that was why everyone was behaving so strangely. Mwasisi, Mwasisi, Chow, Miss Kanane said sternly. Can we have one class, please? The whole class turned to face us. Pin dropped, silence followed. I was more determined than ever to read the note. I made a sip. I made a sip to stand up, but Miss Kanane stopped me. Where to? He asked. I'd like to go to the toilet, please. I said, you were outside when I walked in. Why didn't you go then? She sounded hostile. I was going to speak to Mr. Gogo, but I didn't get a chance to. I said, speak about what? She sneered. I hesitated. About repairing my shoes. I said, finally, it has a tear at the front. I then added pleadingly, but now I just want to go to the toilet. This was the truth. Her expression softened slightly. Go, she said. If there was ever a time I wished I could run, it was now. Before going to the toilet, I leaned unsteadily to the secluded area behind the classroom. There were a number of Mwarobaini trees. The Mwarobaini tree, also called the neem tree, was known to cure over 40 different diseases. I quietly hoped that sitting under it will cure the confusion in my head and in my heart. I made my way toward the largest of the trees that stood in the middle of the compound. I took shelter under it. It gave me relief from the hot sun. From the corner of my eyes, I could see a few monkeys walking along the perimeter wall as if they were guiding it. My mind quickly went back to the piece of paper in my hand. I A sudden strong wind blew in my direction. I almost lost the piece of paper. I held on it tightly. I held on it tightly. My hands trembled as I unfolded the mysterious note that had my mother's handwriting. My dearest daughter, the note read, my child, my one and only daughter, my beloved. I had no doubt you will find this note and that you will be discreet about it. Your brother has had it rough for several months. He puts on a brave face, but I can see the pain and agony when I look deep in his eyes. It has not been easy not being able to take part in sports or be in school, things he loved to do very much. As you can imagine, this situation has made him extra sensitive. He's, he is easily irritable, easily annoyed. He needs extra grace. Somewhere deep down, I know he is asking, why me? He has never asked out loud, but I can sense it. I can tell sometimes the situation is eating him up. For him to be back in school is nothing short of miracle. It is the closest thing to normal he has had for months. Please be kind to him, be patient with him, accommodate him. I know you two are not the best friends, but it would mean a lot to me if I knew we were making him feel safe, loved, and understood. It's it's a lot to ask, sweetie. I know. What happened to him is not your fault. Once in a while, we sacrifice for one another, and we call family, especially those we call family. Sometimes we even forego our rights to be right all the time. This is temporary, my dear. This season will soon pass, and when it does, you two can be rough with each other as you please. I certainly hope not, but won't stand in the way. For now, though, treat him delicately. Allow him to feel the things he feels, just as you are my loved, just as you are my loved, my princess. He is my prince. He is my only son. I will do anything for my children. I know you are a sensible girl. I raised you not only to be strong and confident, but also to be wise, to know when it is time to speak and when it is time to refrain. I can't wait for the holidays for us to reunite. I am sure by then your brother will be whole, so we can all breathe a sigh of relief. For now, though, take extra care of him. I know you will. I love you, your mother. Tears were running down my face by the time I finished reading the letter. Chapter 15. The Return. I did not know what to feel. On one hand, I felt loved beyond measures. On the other hand, I felt ganged up on. Our mother had staged an intervention for me but did not include me. It was hard to explain. I felt like she had gone behind my back and snitched on me. This letter must have been in the sealed envelope Chow was looking for on our way to the beach. She must have read it after our fight. That was why she was acting so weird. Feeling betrayed and feeling deeply loved at the same time were emotions I did not imagine I would experience. How did they feel about Chow? Confused? I had grown to admire her in the last couple of days. I admired the confidence, truthful Chow who spoke her mind. However, today's Chow, the one sneaking behind my back, being overly nice but sincerely so, that's how I did not like. Of course, I would forgive her and mother for talking behind my back. This experience had introduced me to my own sister. In a short time, I got to see her courage, her, her persistence, her loyalty. I was filled with regret that I had missed out on many years that I could have known and learned from her and her from me. Yaliyopita si ndwele. We moved forward, not backward. As I stood up and reached for my crutches that was laying beside me, I felt two strong arms around me. One covered my nose and mouth with a cloth. I could not breathe. The other grips around my torso. The faint pungent smell betrayed the identity of the attacker. It was Hamisi, or whatever his name was. He was he must have seemed he must have sensed I was going to spill the beer and have him arrested. He had come to finish me. You must know the truth, the man whispered. It's not what you think. He blindfolded me and tapped my mouth. He tied my hands together and stuffed me into gunny bag. I could feel my body tossed over his back. To an overlooker, it might have seemed like he was carrying a sack of potato. The pressure of his shoulders bored into my stomach as I dangled upside down on his back. I debated whether to put up a fight or not. His words, "It's not what you think," rang in my ear. I knew, I knew what I knew what I knew. He was not a good guy. He knew without a doubt in my mind that I was right. Could there possibly be another truth besides the one I knew? Mercifully, the journey was not long. He laid me down and hoisted me from the gunny bag. He then proceeded to remove the blindfold. It was him again, the same Hamisi pretender who wanted to steal my watch. He gestured with his finger on his lips. "Shh," he said. His eyes were beyond red. They were deep brown. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. "I want to remove the tape from your mouth so that we can talk. If you scream, I will put it back on you. Nobody will hear you from here. It's up to you if you want to cooperate or not." He removed the tape from my mouth and I did not scream. "I know you think I took down the signboard, but I did not," he said. I was unsure what to say. I did not want to battle any more than he already was. Believe me, I have wanted to do many things, many bad things to the school. I am still bitter about what happened 7 years ago, but all I had done is lurk around the corridors. I know where all the keys are. I know where everything is hidden. If I wanted to cause harm, I would. I felt as a familiar sweat trickled down my back. "Who are you? What's your name?" I asked in a whisper. "Yeri," he sighed. He explained that at one point he was referred to as Mr. Yeri, the respected deputy head teacher at Kweza Academy. Now I have been reduced to a stray dog. This boy chased me away when they see me. I began to relax. The abandoned shack we were in was possibly his house. It was a wooden structure. It was dark inside. The only light came from the space in the wooden walls. He helped me sit down on a giant beanbag. As soon as my bottom hit the beanbag, dust was unleashed into the air. I coughed and sneezed until my eyes teared. My eyes soon became accustomed to the dark. I could make out a sisal mat on the floor. There were boxes of food from what looked like fine restaurants like Tiki Bar, Apero, and Leonardo's. At once, my heart went out to him. He was reduced to rummaging through the rubbish for food. I could also make out on a stone that may have served as a tool a folded pair of work overalls. The name Amisi was printed in embroidery. These were the same overall he was wearing when we first met. "What happened to your job?" I asked. I was unfairly dismissed 7 years ago. They called it retrenchment, but it turned out I was the only one affected. I put up a fight. I engaged the best and most expensive lawyers for the case. The case dragged on for 2 years. I lost. By then, I had used up all my savings. I was left with nothing. I had barely any family. My job was my whole life. I found myself feeling a kinship with Yeri. The injury robbed me of my ability to play. It left me feeling like I had nothing. I was not nearly as bad off as this man, but I could relate in a small way to the feeling of losing something of so much value. I know who the thieves are, he said finally. But you have to see for yourself to believe me. He said, bring your sister if you wish. Chapter 14. Chapter 14. What took you so long? Chapter 14, the truth. What took you for long? Chow asked when I got back to class. Class had been dismissed. It's a long story. I think we can cut the signboard thieves in the act. Her eyes widened. That's so dangerous. She gasped. She gasped. If you have information about who it is, then you must tell the police. You really have to trust me on this one, I said to Cham. I had information that would blow her mind. The class was now empty. Everyone else had left. We need to talk about the letter. Chow said, I know you found it. I did, I said. I read it and it's not a big deal. Chow seemed surprised. Okay, she said. I guess we are okay. I nodded. She then disclosed what she had just learned from the staff room whisper. Apparently, the CCTV installed had such blurry footage it was impossible to decode. Whoever is removing the signboard must have very sophisticated equipment, Chow said. We will see it in action tonight, I told her. Chow looked at me strangely and then continued with the classroom gossip she had gathered. So Miss Cannon appeared to be in some kind of trouble. She said apparently she's been missing classes, not attending to her duties. This morning, for instance, a new girl waited outside the administration block for 1 hour before anyone attended to her. Miss Cannon was supposed to show her the dormitory and classroom, but she did not show up. It suddenly became clear Miss Kanene should have been the guide to show me around on my first day at Puebla. She told me she would send someone to take me to the dormitory. The person never showed up. That is how Yeri found an opportunity to talk to me. That was an important piece of the puzzle. I could remember vividly starting to feel that I had gone mad and that Hamisi or, well, Yeri was created in my imagination. I see now why you want to be a class secretary, I said. You have all the latest tea. Shah waved the suggestion away. That's not the reason at all. In fact, I shouldn't be telling you things I hear in the staff room. Then why do you want to do it? Do all that work for nothing? I want to know. Shah wore an expression that said, you won't understand. Come on, try me. I said, actually enjoy serving others. I actually enjoy serving others, she said. And leading is in my blood. She then added that in future, if she were to look for a scholarship, such experience will come in handy. They look out for such things, leadership, service, so on. So all this for a scholarship, I joked. Stop teasing me, she joked back. On a serious note, though, I was awed by how forward thinking she was. Even before my injury, I do not remember thinking about scholarship. I then took her through that night's plan. We would meet we would meet Yeri at 3 a.m. Right. If if everything Yeri said was true, then we were about to witness the most amazing thing our eyes had ever seen. Now to chapter 15. This is the last chapter, I think. Yes, chapter 15, the grand finale. Creeping out of the dormitory in the dead of the night will ordinarily be the most difficult thing a student will ever do. But Thierry knew every back door and every corner of the school. He knew the ins and outs of the boys' academy. He knew where all the keys were locked, where the spare keys were kept, and where the master keys were hidden. It seemed that after they pushed him out of his job, they did not take the necessary measures to update their security. Yeri managed to get both Chow and me out of our dormitory undetected. The stealth, the stealth that came with this was mind blowing. Yeri was like a ghost, walking Chow and me to our viewing point where we would see the sign, signboard thieves in action was something out of an adventure film. Yeri had access to everything. If he wanted to bring down the school, he could. In our conversation, when he kidnapped me from under the Marubaini, he had said something that shook me. He had said, even though they kicked me out, Wizard Academy is all I have. This is all I know. That's why I am still here like an invisible overseer, keeping watch, making sure that the most important thing to me stays safe and intact. My heart pounded with excitement. At around 3 a.m., had the, as the cricket chipped, Xiao and I followed Yeri. We did not need a torch. It was evident that Yeri's fierce eyes could see through the thicket and darkest night. What surprised me the most was that he did not ask us to tiptoe. It was like he knew where there he knew there would be no one. I managed to hold along. I would lean on Yeri for a few steps and then on Chow for a few others. Sit here. He pointed a mound of construction sand. I wish the place was a little more hidden, but Yeri assured me that this will provide the best view from our vantage point outside the school. The school signboard was up and facing us. He turned to Chow and said, the Oman Arabs did not build the flight of the stairs and the shelter at the beach. Chow giggled and whistled. Then who did? I don't know. Maybe the colonial government. We proceeded to sit in complete silence for about half an hour. I was beginning to suspect that we had been fooled. The sob story Yeri had told me was probably a hoax to lure my sister and me for kidnapping. He will get two for the piece of one. The pounding of my heart moved from excitement to fearful. If nothing happened in the next 5 minutes, I would unleash the loudest scream ever known to a man. And this strange connection with Yeri or Hamisi or whoever this person was would come to an end. This time it would be final. A soft shuffling of leaves caught my eye. Yuri held my hand down. It was meant the show was about to start. Soon after, a troop of monkeys came swinging and some walking. We were shocked to see one of the monkeys with a bag on its back. Their movements were so quiet and calculated. There was no doubt that years of training went into such skills. There was one Columbus monkey and three black-faced ones. The Columbus monkey propped himself in front of the security camera, effectively ensuring that none of the footage would be captured. To our utter amazement, the smallest black-faced monkey out, pulled out, looked like a screwdriver from the bag and unfastened the screw that held the signboard in place. Yeah. So these were the monkeys working. If you can see down here. The others held the signboard at the top and gently brought it down to the ground. The monkey then collected the screw and put them in the bag. Very careful, they held the signboard and carried it away. After they had disappeared, Chow and I let out a loud gasp. What did we just see? Chow rubbed her eyes. I was I was glad she had come to see it for herself. Imagine not being able to share with her this experience. I wanted to ask if the trainers were the same guys who kept baby monkeys in cage we had seen in the ruin. I wanted to ask if it would be dangerous for us to follow the monkeys to see where they were taking the signboard. But when I turned, Yeri had vanished. Once again, he had disappeared. Who is there? I had a commanding voice. Chow and I could neither run nor find our way back without Yeri's help. We quickly annoyed our presence, ready to surrender. Is that you? Is that you, Mawasi? Chow, the familiar voice said. You two are the signboard thieves? To my shock, Mr. Gogo materialized from behind us. That is when I remembered he had mentioned something about being on patrol duty in the morning. I was too scared to look at my watch. Where did you take the signboard? He barked. Where? His balding head shone on the early morning light. Chow tried to plead with him. It was the monkeys, she said. It was unbelievable. We saw it happen. I'm calling security, he threatened. I finally looked at my watch. It was 4:45 a.m. Surprising was Sunrise was on the horizon. Mr. Google pulled out his phone and dialed a number. We could hear him reporting us. Chow and I did our best to explain everything, carefully leaving Yeri out of the story. But it sounded too unbelievable even in our own ears. We were in deep trouble. Mr. Gogo escorted us to an empty room next to the staff room and locked us in. Chow and I sat wordless for the next 2 hours. Our breathing was heavy. I could hear the rapid beating of Chow's heart. I was sure she could hear mine. Perhaps a later time we will talk about the bizarre event of the night. But for now, we were fresh out of words. At exactly 6 a.m., the door flew open. It was Mr. Gogo. I don't know what mischief you two were up to last night, he said, or what wild monkey story you have been telling, but we have more serious problem than this. My ears picked up. What could be more serious than this? The first case of the deadly COVID-19 virus was detected in the country yesterday evening. It sounded like he was reading the news on the television. I am informed that we have received an official directive to close all schools. Our eyes opened in astonishment. And then he added, we are in the process of calling all parents, he said. We are organizing for your transport back home. And that's the end of the story of Strange Happenings by Jenny Marie Ma, published by One Planet Publishers. Thank you for watching.